Thank you very much, CJ, for your professional and wonderful speech today. And like I said before, leadership is a very, very big topic. And to put it all in 1 hour or in a short time is very difficult. And of course, CJ, with his professionalism, we thank you once again for the amazing speech. And next, we have a audience and quite cute.
What is the best way developing leadership in class or even in school?
Great example. Jonathan, the very best way to show leadership in your classroom is think of the thing that you're the most excited about. Something that you have an interest in, that you're curious about, that you enjoy. Maybe something that you have a talent in. Sometimes, Jonathan, one of the ways we can show leadership is if all of the other kids in class are kind of being silly, we can say, hey, guys, the teacher's trying to talk, let's all be quiet. And you can kind of settle the kids down. Sometimes one of the ways you can show leadership in class is to get your homework done first. And you hand in your homework first, and then you say to some of the other kids who maybe are falling behind a little bit, let them know that you're willing to help them. Another thing you can do is think of after-school programs, now obviously direction. And by setting that example, again, leadership, so much of it just comes back to example. And when you think about not just those simple things, but also maybe a bigger cause, a bigger thing that's important to you. For example, maybe in your mind, the environment is a cause that's very important to you. Or volunteer work in the community. My son's example. This is adults. Like there's 200 adults that heard about my son's story and wanted to go then do the same thing. And so, Jonathan, you can inspire people by deciding to do something and showing them, I'm not going to wait for you, I'm going to do it. Does that make sense? Good question, buddy.
I enjoy your speech so much, especially the elevator one. It's so funny.
Thank you.
And I have a question for you. So there's 4 people in my family: my dad, my mom, me, and my brother. Okay. My dad is the leader of our family, and he never listens to any of us. So how can I tell my dad to let me be the leader of the family so I can lead my family to eat healthy?
Oh, to lead your family to eat healthy. First of all, great question. Thank you. Now, is your dad in the room? Dad's in the room, okay. So that's a very, very good question. And every family has its own dynamics. So the first thing that I would say is you always want to be respectful of your dad. Okay, you always want to be polite, you always want to show respect because he is your dad, okay? And you want to honor all the hard work he does to care for you and support your family. But what you can do is, let's say you're looking at your dinner plate. Salad dressing you put on, and that's leadership. If you're eating corn on the cob, my son, he got the habit from me. My son and I love to put butter, but I'm in a competition right now, so I'm not putting butter on anything. But you can choose, if you've got a big thing of corn on the cob, you could choose to put butter or you could choose not to. You could choose to shake a lot of salt onto things or not to. You can choose instead to say, if your mom and dad say, what do you want to drink? Maybe you've got choices of Coca-Cola, chocolate milk, orange juice, or water. You could choose the healthiest option. So you could say, I would like water, please. And you have control over those little tiny decisions. Sometimes, especially when we're younger and we're working, or an apple or a banana, why don't we have fruit instead of the cookie? So even though your mom and dad will make a lot of choices and you may not feel like you have a lot of control, there's still little decisions you can do each day that you can start to lead. Here's another thing you can control. You could say, every single day, I'm going to get up, and do you have a bicycle or anything like that? Okay. So let's imagine it's nice weather outside, and your mom and dad let you ride the bicycle outside. Wow, our daughter is exercising more than us. Oh my goodness, this is so embarrassing. We should actually maybe go with her. Maybe we should go on a family walk together. Maybe they start getting inspired to say, why don't we all go together because we also want to spend the family time, but you're setting the positive example. So those are some little choices you can make that you have control over, that could start to set a good example to inspire your mom and dad. Hopefully that helps. Thank you for a great question, by the way, and thank you for your nice words.
I have a question.
Okay.
What is the most important value that kids need to have to become a good leader?
What is the most important value somebody should have to become a good leader? Mm-hmm. Very good question. And this is a bit of a bigger question because the first thing that comes to mind is integrity. But to get into a more complicated conversation, there are many people around the world through history that are very effective leaders who don't have integrity. Like very, very bad, evil people are very effective leaders who they don't have integrity. So I would say for you, the first quality should be integrity, even though you don't necessarily need that to be a leader, but you should need that to be a leader, okay? The actual first quality, setting aside integrity, is the ability to take action on a goal. Because no one will follow you, really, by just saying go do something. The most effective way to lead is to set an example. So like doing. Maybe you say, I don't really feel like studying right now. I don't really feel like practicing the piano right now. I don't really feel like exercising right now. I don't really feel like eating healthy. I don't really feel like brushing my teeth, doing my homework, going to bed on time. I don't really feel like doing that. But if you can learn the ability to make yourself do things that you know you should do, even when you don't want to do them, and you can motivate you, then you can figure out how to motivate other people. Does that make sense? So figure out how to get yourself to do things. That's the first most important quality. Thank you for a great question.
Hello, my name is Selena.
Hi, Selena.
I have a question. How long did it take to, fully get prepared for this speech?
26 years.
Wow.
Yeah. So the short answer is, Carrie, who so graciously invited me to join you today, Kobe Bryant, how long did you have to practice for yesterday's basketball game? He would say years and years and years and years and years. Does that make sense? Exactly. So he didn't really practice for that game, even though he practiced. He practiced for years and years and years to get to the place he could do that game. So my simple answer is, since I was 20...
Another question from our Zoom meeting for CJ. And the question is this. My dad has been eating a lot of unhealthy food. How do I help my dad eat healthier food? Every time we tell him to stop eating so much junk food, he stops eating for one day or two, but starts again.
That's a great question. How do you solve that? Well, aside from ourselves setting the example, let's imagine it's, do we know the age of the person? Is this a child? Or
I believe it's probably a child, yes.
Okay. So if you want to change somebody else's behavior, obviously the first step is changing yourself. But really for them, I would talk to them about what their goal is. Because if the individual doesn't see a problem, they're not going to change. But in the question, they mentioned that their dad has tried a couple of times, that he'll change for a day or two and then drift back. So probably the dad at least acknowledges something needs to change. So the question for that then becomes, how do you help your dad follow through on an exercise program? I would talk to him, whoever you are, I would talk to your dad, and ask your dad, what is your goal? Ask your dad, Dad, what's your goal? Or, depending upon the circumstance, Dad, do you think maybe 8 or 10 years of age, knew that smoking was bad, but how does a 10-year-old get their parent to change? And so they'd had conversations and they'd heard in school that, you know, smoking is very bad for you, smoking can kill you. And the child finally went to the dad and said, and this is somebody that I know, and said, Daddy, do you love me? He says, yeah. And the child says, well, do you love me enough to quit smoking? And Dad's like, oh. It's like a knife through his heart, right? And so the child says, Daddy, I'm crying because I'm scared that you're going to die, and I want you to be there on my wedding day and to meet your grandkids when I have my own babies. And I'm scared that you're going to keep doing this, and I'm not going to have you later in my life. And so the child had no authority over the dad, no formal influence, but boy, oh boy, that was relationship leadership. And so the dad, it broke his heart into a million pieces as he started to realize the picture the child had painted, that he would arrive at his wedding and the dad wouldn't be there. The child would grow up and have kids and the dad wouldn't be there. And so he resolved, and he literally said these words. He says, okay, I'm going to stop quitting. I'm going to quit smoking because I love you. And if you ever, this dad literally said this, if you ever see me smoking a cigarette, what that means is I don't love you. And from that day, that dad never touched a cigarette. Ever. Because he had told the child, if you ever see me smoking a cigarette, it means I don't love you. So even if the dad was reaching because of the physical temptation with the nicotine receptors in his brain, the chemical addiction, he'd be like, oh, how can I look my child in the face and say, have him know I don't love him? And so he was able to get reach the threshold moment and get leverage on himself to change. So I would say, hey, Dad, I'm concerned about you. I love you. I really think you need to change, and start there, and then point your dad towards some resources.
尼克你好，今天的这个讲座听完以后有什么样的感受呀？
I thought the speech was really good because it taught us a lot of good things for our lives, and it can change the world sometimes when we have healthy bodies, so we can just stay healthy for a long time and not get sick and become a leader and convince other people to do something that you think that can change the world.
It is amazing. I enjoy it. And now I know how to lead my family to eat healthy.
I really liked the speech because it was very good, and yeah, thanks.
I really enjoyed this speech, and it was a fantastic speech. I learned a lot from this speech, and also CJ has shared some fun example with us, which let us can learn more fun and easier.